The fire had burned low, a final orange ember flickering against the black blanket of a Maine wilderness night. 4 college kids, Dan, Megan, Chris, and Lacey, camped out on the edge of Acadia National Park, far from the trailheads, where the trees creaked like old bones, and the wind whispered like it knew your secrets. They were city kids with borrowed boots and store-bought marshmallows, more familiar with dorm room playlists than coyotes or pine sap. Still, they wanted that off-grid vibe, so they set up a tent on a small rise and placed a trail cam about 30 feet out to catch wildlife. They hoped for deer, maybe a fox. They got something else. Chris was the tech nerd of the group. He had bought the trail cam off eBay, second-hand, but still functional, with night vision and motion triggers. He set it, facing the fire pit, before they all turned in. None of them had noticed the camera light blinking that night. Why would they? They were drunk on s'mores and spiked cider and stories about forest cults and missing hikers. They slept hard. None of them woke, not even when the woman came. It wasn't until 2 days later, back in Dan's apartment with greasy pizza boxes and cold beer, that they loaded the footage onto a laptop. At first, it was dull. Squirrels, the fire popping, Dan mumbling in his sleep. Then came the timestamp, 3:17 a.m. The screen jumped. Movement detected. She walked in from the left, slow and deliberate, the way an actor steps onto a stage. She wore a bright red dress, not hiking gear, not weathered clothes, just a flowing formal dress like something from a 1950s gala, the hem trailing over pine needles. Her skin was pale, chalk white. Her arms hung limp at her sides. She didn't blink. "Pause it," Megan said, frowning. "Go back." Chris rewound the footage. The woman entered frame again, ghostly in the night vision, red rendered gray, like blood fading on concrete. "Who the hell?" Lacey started, but Chris raised a hand. They watched, silent. The woman moved past the campfire. She never looked at the tent, never deviated, just glided through the scene, her head forward, her face a blank porcelain mask. Her eyes were open, wide, glassy. Too wide. In the next frame, captured from a second angle thanks to a mirrored lens Chris had jerry-rigged, she appeared again. Closer this time, nearer the tent. Still no one moved inside. Dan was snoring faintly. You could hear it on the audio. Then came the third angle. The woman stopped, turned slowly toward the camera. Her face didn't change, but her head tilted slightly, like a curious dog. And then, subtly, almost imperceptibly, her lips moved. Chris slowed the footage. Quarter speed, then eighth. The lips moved again. 4 syllables. Megan clapped a hand over her mouth. Lacey whispered it. "I see you." The screen froze on her face. Her eyes were still wide, unblinking. Her skin stretched too tight, too smooth. Her smile didn't belong to a human being. It was empty, hungry. They laughed nervously at first, said it was probably a prank. Maybe a local messing with campers. Some weird viral thing. Then Chris checked the cam's metadata. The footage wasn't corrupted. It hadn't been tampered with. GPS logs confirmed their location, 20 miles from the nearest town. No trails, no access roads. Dan's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Do you see me?" He dropped the phone. Megan checked the cam again, rewound it, froze on the woman's eyes. "I don't think she's looking at the tent," she said. "What?" "She's looking at the camera, like she knew it was there, like she was performing." That night, Chris couldn't sleep. He left his laptop open, let the footage play on loop. Around 3 a.m., while editing frame by frame in Photoshop, he noticed something that made his mouth go dry. In the last frame, after she'd passed, after the campers had gone still, there was a figure reflected in the lens of the camera. Only for a second. A face. It wasn't hers. It was someone else, standing behind the tent, smiling. The camera died right after that. 2 days later, Lacey stopped answering calls. Mingan found her apartment door open. On the kitchen table sat an envelope with no stamp. Inside was a single printed image. The woman in red, walking toward the camera. But in this photo, she was blinking, and her eyes were focused directly at whoever had taken it. They went into the woods to save their relationship. Eric and Dana, both 31, both tired in the way people get tired of each other. Quiet, aching exhaustion that no longer came with shouting matches or storming off. Just silence. A growing wall. So they packed up their camping gear, booked a remote spot in the Adirondacks, and promised each other no phones, no distractions. Just nature. Just them. It was supposed to be peaceful. The spot was perfect. Dense forest, a clearing just big enough for a 2-person tent, and a slow, gliding stream behind them. Eric brought his GoPro, more excited about spotting a bear than fixing anything with the Dana, if he was honest. He strapped it to a small tree facing the clearing, hoping to catch wildlife moving through the woods at night. The first night, they listened to cicadas and wind. The second night, owls and rustling leaves. By the third, the quiet began to feel too deep, like the woods were holding their breath. But it was night 4 when things got weird. Eric played back the GoPro footage on his laptop. He'd set it on a motion detect timer, only activating when something crossed its field of view. For the first 3 nights, it captured the firelight dying down, the occasional deer passing, once a raccoon sniffing at their cooler. Night 4 was different. At 2:43 a.m., the motion sensor activated. A man stood just beyond the trees. He wasn't moving, just standing there, half shrouded in shadow, face obscured, body stiff like he was carved out of wood. Wearing what looked like a long coat or cloak. No flashlight, no bag, no camping gear. Just him. "Jesus," Dana whispered, peering at the screen. "Is that a ranger? No badge, no hat. And he's just watching." Eric rewound it. The man hadn't appeared from anywhere. He was simply there. The footage before showed nothing. And the next frame he was standing between 2 pine trunks, perfectly still. They didn't sleep that night. They talked in whispers, then in harsh whispers, then in silence. Packed their gear in the dark and debated hiking out. But morning came, and sunlight brought back a false sense of safety. Maybe it was a hunter, or a trick of the light, or a glitch. Night 5, they left the camera running again. He came back. This time, he was closer. The same man, same long coat, standing behind a crooked birch tree 15 feet closer to the tent. His head slightly tilted, like he was listening. Still no visible eyes, still no movement, and no sound. Eric stared at the footage, frozen. He's looking at the tent. Dana was already stuffing clothes into her pack. "We're leaving," but they didn't. Something stopped them. Some blend of stubbornness and denial. They reasoned it was probably just someone passing through. He hadn't done anything. No threats. No violence. That night, Eric slept with a hatchet under his pillow. The final footage came from night 6. The GoPro activated at 3:17 a.m. The tent was visible in the corner of the frame, the fire long dead. The man was crouching now, no longer behind trees. He was 6 feet from the tent flap, knees bent like a praying mantis, arms hanging low. He was close. His face was still impossible to make out, too smooth and pale, like it didn't quite belong on a human head. He didn't move, not even to breathe. Then came something new. The video had no sound, but the tent moved. Not from inside, from the outside. Something was brushing the canvas. Eric remembered it then. The whisper of fabric at 3 a.m. The sensation of someone dragging a hand slowly across the nylon just above his head. He thought it was wind. They left at sunrise. No coffee, no breakfast. Just packed and walked the 8 miles out in silence, checking over their shoulders every few 100 feet. They never went back. 2 weeks later, Eric uploaded the GoPro files to his desktop. There was a new video. He hadn't recorded it. The timestamp was from that final night, but the footage wasn't from the tree-mounted GoPro. It was from inside the tent. A static shot pointed at him and Dana, asleep in their sleeping bags, just watching. In the final second, the camera tilted slightly, like someone had picked it up. And behind the lens, barely reflected in the shiny surface of Eric's thermos, was the man's face. Too pale, too smooth, and smiling. A week after discovering the final video, Eric's laptop disappeared. The hard drive was wiped clean. Dana began hearing footsteps outside her apartment at night, always between 3 a.m. and 3:20 a.m. She stopped looking out the window. Somehow, she knew. He was still watching.